Kalawalava, I'm Monty Betham, and thank you for choosing Once a Warrior. Today's guest played 386 first-class games, and 60 of them were at the Vodafone Warriors. He is the man. Ryan Hoffman, thanks for joining me, my man.
Pleasure, Mons. Thanks for having me, mate.
Mate, we see you on the sidelines. You're at the Super Club Melbourne Storm, but what's your role?
Football operations manager. It's actually a fancy title for a glorified babysitter for 36 footballers, mate. But no, look, I'm enjoying the role. It's great to still be involved in rugby league, and I see how important sort of the football director sort of role is in rugby league at the moment. And Frank Panisi is our football director, and I work under him.
Now, playing through the pandemic, Melbourne Storm has had to relocate a couple of times. We think about the Warriors who have been spending a long time overseas. How hard has it been, man, firsthand, having worked with some of your boys?
Yeah, look, 2020 was a big year, obviously, with a lot of the changes, and we packed everything up and moved up to the Sunshine Coast. We got told we'd be there for 2 weeks, ended up staying 5 months. I'm sure the Warriors fans, players certainly understand all that. Look, we did go through some tough times with families and people moving, but to be honest, it's a spit in the ocean compared to what the Warriors have sort of gone through. I remember when I spoke to the guys in 2020 after we played them, me, Cameron and Mooks went in the locker room and just to sort of thank them for what they're doing. And I got really emotional. Like, it really hit me hard because I knew quite a lot of those boys, and I knew how important home was to them, and I know how important playing for the Warriors at home is for them. And it really hit me, and the sacrifice they were making.
Then it was a nice touching post from you during the week where you had a similar shot when you were walking down a particular driveway to the number 2 training field, and then you showed this current crop. Nice post. You still got a soft spot for the club?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I absolutely love my time at the Warriors. I really did. I love the people, love the fans. We, as a family, we loved living there. We really did. We really enjoyed everything about it. And one of my most proudest moments as a rugby league player was I got to be an NRL captain of the Warriors, and that's something I take great pride in. To see them run out from that Eastern grandstand, knowing what it's like under there, and knowing how the boys would be feeling, and you walk through that tunnel and just seeing, the crowd, the flags and all that sort of stuff, it really got me so excited. And also take great pride in seeing the boys back home where they belong. I'm Warrior 195, and no one's ever going to be 195. That's my personal number. That's my connection to that great club and also to the country as well. So I take great pride in that.
Mate, that'll probably be why a lot of the fans have still got a soft spot for you, but also for some of these moves.
Ryan Hoffman runs a great line.
It's a miracle try from Hoffman.
Touchdown! Who saw that coming? Hoffman's got the ball. Hoffman, great offload. Straight through now, Hoffman. Ryan Hoffman makes it look easy. They are going to win it with a try. Hoffman has the score. Short ball to Hoffman, who just manages to hold on to it and score a beautiful try. Ryan Hoffman, game 300. Ryan Hoffman in game 300. What a way to mark a big milestone.
Okay, just watch that back, bro. What are the memories that get evoked from that, or how do you feel watching it back?
Oh, look, mate, it's just really special knowing that I was wearing that jersey, knowing that's what I was representing. Those moments running out there on Mount Smart, knowing our fans are the most parochial fans. Like, the thing is with the Warriors, we don't have a town or a city behind us. We've got a country. We had a whole country sort of behind us, and I got to play with some fantastic players. I class Simon Mannering and certainly the top 5 players that I've ever played with.
Wow.
I've been fortunate enough to play with some great players. So to be able to say I was a teammate of arguably New Zealand's greatest ever player was something really special. And I love playing with Tommy Lilloy. Loved playing with Tommy Lilloy. Like, I loved him as a mate. Loved him as a rugby league player. I loved his attitude. And he was a great leader, and all you need to do was, I loved it when Tommy played on half because he was next to me. Yeah. So I knew no one was running at Tommy. No, he'd sit them straight at their backside. So I knew I had an easy day because normally you get the forwards trying to beeline the half, and no one's beelining Tommy Littlewhite, so I really enjoyed having him next to me.
You mentioned Simon Mannering without me even going there. What made him so good? You mentioned top 5 players. Man, you've played with a hell of a lot of good players in your time.
The thing with Simon is that he wasn't an athlete. He was a footballer. So he wasn't 10 foot tall, he wasn't ball-proof, wasn't throwing weights around the gym, wasn't running the house down. He was an out-and-out rugby league player. It was like Cameron Smith in that regard. Cameron Smith wasn't an athlete, he was a footballer. And Simon Mannering was the exact same. His body was built to play rugby league, and he did it better than anyone else. And when you get footballers over athletes, footballers, they're going to be there for you in those moments. I think sometimes rugby league sort of fans and rugby league pundits and recruiters get a bit too focused on, the bloke that's 10 foot tall and runs 110 flat. You need to also have those footballers there, those footballers that always seem to put themselves in the right place at the right time. And that's what Simon did. Simon Mannering's working hard from the inside and putting kick pressure on in the first minute. He's doing the same thing in the 79th minute after making 50 tackles. Like those, they're tough players, and they're the inspirational players, and they're the players that set a tone for the club. And you don't get success without having those sort of players leading the way.
You've played pretty much finals football in your whole career at the Storm. You won premierships there. You've always been amongst the best. So how did it happen, and why else did you want to come?
Yeah, I came. I was off contract in 2014, and Melbourne had an offer. It was okay, and then out of nowhere the Warriors came along, and I hadn't really considered it. Melbourne could only offer me 2 years. The Warriors offered me 3. So there was that part of it, but it was also you want to be a part of something special. You want to be a part of the first thing. You want to be part of the first. You want to create something yourself. And I was also I wanted to be a part of New Zealand. I've got a bit of history with New Zealand. I lived in Wellington when I was a kid for 2 years, so New Zealand wasn't foreign to me. And I was actually living in New Zealand when the Warriors first started. '95, I was living here. I remember watching on TV that first game against Brisbane. So I sort of had a bit of I wouldn't say an affinity with the Warriors, but I sort of knew where they started, knew where they're from, and there was an excitement there of something new that I wanted to be a part of. What got me really sort of got the tingles going was the Nines. Yeah. Playing in the Auckland Nines actually for the Warriors. I played previously with the Storm, and to run out there for that first Nines game, I think we had the Parochial jersey on, and the roar of the crowd at Eden Park. Like it's the pinnacle of sport in New Zealand. To run out there and they're all cheering for you for once was pretty good. And I think I managed to score with my first touch too in the Nines, so it was really special. I could see what the potential is there in New Zealand, because the Warriors become successful and become the club everyone wants them to be, in the club they should be, they would be the strongest rugby club in the world. Like, I'm not talking rugby union, I'm talking rugby league and rugby union. Yeah, unfortunately I did leave with the job not done, and that's a regret I have. I didn't complete my task.
When we think about the clubs you came from and the success you had to what you were trying to do here, in that time you were there, what was the difference in terms of the Warriors club versus obviously Melbourne and also versus Wigan, in terms of maybe perhaps not quite being there?
Yeah, look, the thing that I noticed was under Craig has been at the Melbourne Storm for 20 years. So his culture and his beliefs and what he has, it's just been ingrained in the joint. Unfortunately, when something happened to the Warriors, I saw a thing the other day, they've had 9 coaches since 2010. And it's very hard to be able to create a culture and an identity. And that's when I first got there with Cappy. I knew we weren't going to make the New Zealand Warriors the Melbourne Storm, because that's not the players we had. That wasn't right. What works in the Melbourne Storm works for them. It doesn't necessarily work for everyone else. But I wanted to bring the high standards and the attention to detail to what we had in Melbourne, because I believe that's how we sort of started to build a culture. And I thought we really started to do that in 2015. Come to Origin time that year, after the last Origin, we're sitting 4th. In 2015, we beat Melbourne in Auckland, and Friendy threw that ball between his legs. But unfortunately, we just didn't have the finish off at the end of the year, and we missed out of the 8. But it was there. It was there. It really was. And But the trick is backing it up and doing it again,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
again, and again, and again. And I suppose it's that culture that just gets ingrained in the players from having one coach there for so long. And unfortunately for a lot of the guys, they've had to reset so many times. It was always going to be a bit of a grind to get those standards there. Yeah, we had some good leaders over my time there at the Warriors with Simon, Jake Lillyman, obviously Rog and Tommy and all that sort of stuff. But unfortunately for a lot of those guys, they weren't on the paddock. So having during those 3 years I was there, we lost Dodge for the year, we lost Tommy for the year. Simon was going through a lot of stuff just because the toll of all that footy over the years really took its toll on him. But look, as I said, we showed glimpses during that time, and there were glimpses shown during Mooks's time there. I'll probably lean to the side to persevere, but I understand too. It's a results-based business, and you need wins, you need W's.
You had Mooks, Stephen Cooney was the assistant coach in Melbourne. Did he change when he came over and he took the head coaching role? And also, how hard is it going from assistant coach to a head coach? What's the difference, and how do you become the good coach?
Yeah, that's a big one. He did a bit of success taking the boys to the finals. Look, Mooks was a great assistant coach, and I, first of all, playing with him and then having him as an assistant, I used to follow him around like a puppy dog, to be quite honest. One of the best back rows of the game is I really model my game. So to see him, I was really excited when he signed on as coach for the Warriors. Probably excited until he told me that he wasn't going to re-sign me for the next year. But
we've all had those coaches, man.
Yeah, that's it. But Steve, best thing about Steve is that he was honest. He was honest, and he wanted success, and he expected success. I think sometimes coaches can play the mind game thing and try and be too smart with what they're doing. Steve didn't try to be too smart or anything, too smart for his own good. He wanted players to play, to their experience and to their potential. Personally, I think it was worth persevering with, but that obviously wasn't my call, and I wasn't at the club at the time. But I remember that there was a real sense of excitement when Steve came on board. But to go from an assistant to a head coach is a big gig, because in the end the buck stops with you. You need to make all the decisions. You need to make all the hard calls, and Steve did that. But unfortunately, some of those calls weren't right by the powers that be, and owners and all that sort of stuff. They only try to do what's best for the club and what's best for the fans. So it really is a tricky sort of situation to be in.
Brother, all about great spines, being from Melbourne, the current spine now, and then obviously the big three and the spines that you've been a part of. I go back to 2017, and I don't think I was ever excited about a spine in my life, especially at the Warriors. It was the Kiwi spine. You had Foran come over. It was the dream spine. Is it an opportunity missed that we didn't capitalise on that a little bit more? And why was it not so effective?
Geez, Monty, I wish I knew, to be quite honest, mate. There was unbelievable excitement around what the players that we had in that year. Obviously having Bully and a hooker, Shawnee, Foz, and Roger at the back. I mean, all the building blocks were there, and that was just so disappointing that I think it came to a stage that we expected it to happen.
Yeah.
We started to look at those guys to sort of get us out of a bind or get us out of that. We needed to set a platform and all that first, and we lapsed at pivotal moments. We didn't defend well, and it's all well and good giving those blokes the ball, but if we're giving them the ball with a 20-point deficit, well, what's the point? I wish I had an answer why we didn't see his defence as important that year, but our defence was poor, and that's what I think was most disappointing.
The young talent on the ground for you early on, who caught your eye?
Dave Fussatua for sure, because he had all the attributes that Israel had when Israel started. Everything. He had the leaping ability. He had the skill. He had the speed. He just had that long stride. So Dave Fussatua was a very, very, very special player, I thought. And another bloke was Nate Roach. Unfortunately, his career has just been decimated through injuries. But he was a high quality, really, really high quality player. I mean, that shows how cruel this game really is. Like, Nate Roach and Ben Henry are two of the best trainers, the best attitude, and the most skillful players, and had a want to win and want to compete, and they just had their careers cut short due to no fault of their own, and that's how cruel that this game is. Ben Henry should be a 20-game Test player. To be quite honest, he had that skill with playing in the back row, playing in the centres. He would be a leader. He'd be the current captain of the Warriors right now, to be quite honest. I'd love to see a challenge between Nate Roach and Brandon Smith for the Kiwi Test spot, because he was Test quality. Bunty Afoa, it was great to see him play his 100th game on the weekend too. I'd love to see him coming through the grades. I love Jazz. I love seeing Jazz, because Jazz only knew he tries to fight people a bit too much, but I loved his attitude. He's the type of player that I know Craig Bellamy likes, that gets in, does all the mongrel work, does all the stuff that doesn't get you all the raps. Sam Lasoni and Albert Vete, we all debuted for the Warriors the same day. So it was seeing those guys, it's a real shame that Albert didn't kick on as much, because I loved he was a great leader, and Sam Lasoni, you don't really get a forward with those skills too much. So I think impatience set in with a few players. Like I reckon if Tui Lolohea and Ata Hingano had a bit more time to sort of develop themselves, that they would have progressed to be very, very good players. But I think sometimes players get a bit impatient and just want what they want straight away. And realising that you get first grade's not the place to be learning your trade. You got to learn your trade in the lower grades before. First grade is when you show your skills. You don't learn the game in first grade. The way more I'm talking, I'm remembering all these great young players that were coming through that have done great things.
Mate, I think there's a bit of a stigma around Australians coming over here. It's been that way over the years, and probably now currently with people deciding not to come home and all sorts. What do you think that is? Or is that a thing? Or is that just unlucky with some of our recruits, you reckon?
Yeah, look, I think when recruit goes anywhere, it needs to go there with the right mentality and the right mindset, and possibly that might not have happened in the past. It's said that the Warriors pay a bit overs to get players over there, and that's just the way it is. You have to pay overs to get players to leave their current clubs. But I don't want to speak out of school, because I don't know the circumstances of certain players and everything like that. But I get really disappointed when you hear people say they don't want to move to New Zealand. I mean, you sign with a New Zealand club. My thing was, I was excited to take the family to New Zealand. My wife was excited. My son was excited, and then we had our daughter over there. So in our passport collection, we've got a New Zealand passport floating around. But it was those sort of things that added to the mystique of signing with the Warriors, moving to a new country and representing a country. That really excited me, and you just wish people and players would have a bit more of an open approach to going over there, because it is a special place, and you're not on the other side of the planet. You're 3 hours away on a plane.
Mate, a wonderful career you had amongst a number of clubs, but you got to celebrate some of those milestones at the Warriors. What about 300 besides the conversion? Was that the only conversion in your career? What else do you remember of that?
It was my only one I kicked. It wasn't the only one. It wasn't the only one I attempted, but it was the only one I kicked. Look, that 300 game really showed to me how special the club was. It was a special milestone for me, 300 games. But the way we played that day, we played the house down. We really did. The way the players played, and it really, I found it really touching, and it was really special, and it showed how special the club was, because the effort the boys put in, I don't know if they put it in for me or whatever like that, but the effort they put in for that day, to make that day a very special moment for me, that showed their care for me by the effort they put in. And I took that really to heart, and took great pride in my teammates and being a Warrior on that day. Seeing the effort that those guys put in, and obviously kicking the conversion at the end, having the boys jump all over, it was just one of those great days. And you want a milestone to be special, and the boys showed how important I was to them by the way they played, because I think they knew how important it was to me.
Absolutely, and you've had a lot of great days when you've played a career as long as yours. The longevity, why, how? I mean, what's the secret sauce in that, man? And the consistency.
Yeah, I love the game. I flat out love the game. I just wanted to play it as long as I can. I wanted to prepare myself to be as best I can. So for me, it was more so I did a lot of my stuff out of fear, because I didn't want to be the bloke that let someone down. Fear was a big driver for me. I didn't want to have teammates look over at me and say he didn't fill the space there. He missed that tackle. You know, we can't trust Hoff because he missed his tackles. That scared the hell out of me. I didn't want to be that bloke. So I made sure I prepared to ensure that I wasn't that person. And I think in doing that, I set myself up for a career that, you know, I never really had a target on my back. I was never that bloke to saying I'll be happy with one first grade game. Nah. I was never happy with one first grade. I just wanted more.
Yep.
I just wanted another one and another one and another one. And you know, I think a flat out love for the game really helped me play as long as what I was. I'll be honest, I was lucky. I was really lucky with injuries. And like, as we were talking about with Benry and Nate before, like you don't get to say a lot of the time. So I was really lucky injury wise. That made me carry all these games. But yeah, I don't think you can do that unless you genuinely love it. Because if you genuinely love something, you're going to do everything you can to get the most out of it personally, and that means that you're going to do that bit of extras when no one's looking, because you know you're not doing it for show. You're doing it because you know you're preparing yourself to be the best player you can, but more importantly, the best teammate you can be.
Hoffy, final stories, players or moments that stick in your mind when you reflect on 60 great games in the, not all great because that's how it is in the tough game of rugby league, but in the Warriors jumper.
It was those moments when you knew that you're a part of a New Zealand team. You know, like I'd love sort of warming up and you know, they do the pukana cam and all that sort of stuff. And I took a great little sort of, this is cool. I'm part of a club that does that. I'm part of a club that loves its heritage and loves its culture and all that sort of stuff. So I really took a lot of, like, obviously not being Māori or Polynesian myself, it didn't sort of mean something to me culturally, but it meant something to me to be a part of. And I think that was a big thing for me as being part of the Warriors was that connection. And feeling that connection to the place, being an outsider coming in. And actually, I'll tell you what, Monty, one of my most favourite memories was the big feeds that we'd have. We'd have a Sunday afternoon feed.
Yeah.
You know, those things, the boys are bringing in food left, right. I remember the first time we had a big team feed. And, you know, my wife brought in some sort of finger food and all that sort of stuff on like 2 plates. And all these poly boys are bringing out these massive big silver trays full of food. We're like, holy, okay, now we know where at. But those sort of things, like they're some of my most fond moments being a part of the Warriors and just the people being involved. And I think we got a great sort of thing at that. We got going at the end, and it was going around and seeing the fans and high fiving the fans and doing all those sort of stuff after the game, because, you know, rain, hail, or shine, we had definitely a lot of rain and hail during the times there. Like they turn out, they turn out because they love rugby league.
Ryan, once a Warrior, always a Warrior, and we thank you for being such a great Warrior and a Warrior captain, my man.
Thanks, Monty. As I said, mate, it's one of the most proudest things I've ever in my career to say. I was a captain of the New Zealand Warriors.
Next week on the show, Warangi Kopu, a legend of the jumper, right here on Once a Warrior.
Ryan Hoffman runs a great line.
It's a miracle try from Hoffman.
Touchdown! Who saw that coming? Hoffman's got the ball. Hoffman, great offload. Straight through now, Hoffman. Ryan Hoffman makes it look easy. They are going to win it with a try. Hoffman has the score. Short ball to Hoffman, who just manages to hold on to it and score a beautiful try. Ryan Hoffman, game 300. Ryan Hoffman in game 300. What a way to mark a big milestone.